glanced at me as I remember. I remember when we caught a shooting star. Yes, I remember. I remember all the things that we shared and the promise we made, just you and I remember all the laughter we shared, all the wishes we made upon the roof that dawn. Do you remember when we were dancing in the rain in that December? And I remember when my father thought you were a burglar. I remember all the things that we shared and the promise we made, just you and I remember all the laughter we shared, all the wishes we made upon the roof that dawn. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Yes, I remember all the things that we shared and the promise we made, just you and I remember all the laughter we shared, all the wishes we made upon the roof that dawn. I remember the way you read your books. Yes, I remember the way you tied your shoes. Yes, I remember the cake you loved the most. Yes, I remember the way you drank your coffee. I remember the way you glanced at me. Yes, I remember when we caught a shooting star. Yes, I remember when we were dancing in the rain in that December, and the way you smiled at me. Yes, I remember.
I lose some sales and my boss won't be happy, but I can't stop listening to the sound of two soft voices blended in perfection from the reels of this record that I found. Every day there's a boy in the mirror asking me what I do in here, finding all my previous motives growing increasingly unclear. I've traveled far and I've burned all the bridges I believed as soon as I hit land. All the other options held before me would wither in the light of my plan. So I lose some sales and my boss won't be happy, but there's only one thing on my mind. Searching boxes underneath the counter on a chance that on the tape I'd find a song for someone who needs somewhere to long for. Cause I no longer know where home is.
Jadi gimana? Apa isi dari itu?
Pertama
Macam-macam
ini namanya oseng-oseng kelinci jaya.
Yo, itu.
Kelinci jaya. Idenya dari oseng dua kelinci. Terus kita tambah sedikit ya seperti something like eggs. Terus kita ada something like buncis.
Wanginya lumayan ya.
Ya emang enak. Jadi terus kita ada sedikit dari bumbu-bumbu dari PT Indofood dikit.
PT Indofood.
Bumbu mie udah tuh salah.
Asisten.
Dan ini dia
Masih asisten.
resep pembodohan.
Dengan itu jadi bego.
Biarin, tapi jadi bego, tapi enak yang
Enak, bantu umum.
Ahi.
Bantu umum.
Membantu umum.
Udah? Berarti di sejarah maju.
Ayo, woi.
Ini dia.
Bisa nambah ya. Hidangan malam ini. Wow.
Cantik. Yang cantik ya.
Estetika sih.
Estetika.
Awas.
Sambal.
Gila dia. Mau kebodohan gua. Mau kebodohan.
Gak bohong, udah pokoknya dimakan aja.